Welcome to English Speak Pulse. I'm Danielle, and let me ask you something honest. Why is it that you understand English? You can read English. You can even write English. But the moment you try to speak, your mind goes blank. You know the words. You know the sentences. But when it's time to speak, confidence disappears. Thoughts slow down, and silence takes over. That silence isn't because your English is weak. It's because no one ever taught you how fluency actually works. And joining me today is my co-host, Sarah.
Thank you, Danielle. I'm Sarah, and here's a truth most learners never hear. Speaking fluency is not about grammar. It's not about accent. And it's definitely not about knowing more words. Fluency is about what happens inside your brain before the words leave your mouth. Some people speak smoothly not because they know more English, but because their mind is trained to release language naturally.
In this episode, we're going to break a big myth that fluency comes from studying harder. Instead, you'll learn why fluency comes from training your thinking speed, removing translation, and building confidence step by step.
We'll talk about why people freeze while speaking, how fear silently blocks words, and how you can train yourself to speak without waiting for the perfect sentence in your head.
If you've ever felt frustrated after a conversation, if you've ever thought, I know English, but I can't speak it, this episode is for you.
Because today, you're not learning more English. You're learning how to use the English you already have. This is English Speak Pulse, where confident speaking begins in the mind and flows into your voice.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are getting into one of the most frustrating problems in language learning.
Oh, definitely.
It's that gap, the gap between knowing English and actually being able to speak it.
Right. You have this learner who can, ace a grammar test, no problem. They can read a whole article.
But then you ask them, how was your weekend? And everything just freezes.
A total paradox.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we've been digging into. We've gathered all this research to explain why it happens and, I think more importantly, how you actually fix it.
What's the mission then for today?
Our mission is to make it really clear that fluency isn't what most people think it is. It's not about perfection.
Not a perfect accent or
huge vocabulary or making zero mistakes. No, it's all about movement. It's about flow.
Exactly. And the sources we've synthesized, they completely reframe this. For anyone listening, the big takeaway is this. Fluency is not some talent you're born with. It's a trainable skill.
100%. It's a skill.
And once you get that, it sort of takes all the pressure off. It's not that you're broken. It's just that you haven't done the right training yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's break down that first mental blocker, that really common belief that, some people are just naturally fluent and I'm not one of them.
Mm-hmm. Such a damaging idea. It makes fluency feel like this, innate gift. Either you have it or you don't.
And if you don't, you're just stuck.
Right. But the research gives us this really powerful counter-narrative. It shows that fluent speakers, they just train differently. They spent time, step by step, training their brain, their mouth, and their confidence in a way that most classrooms just ignore.
So it's not about cramming more knowledge in.
Not at all. It's about mobilizing the knowledge you already have.
Yeah.
Our sources define fluency as the ability to get an idea out without that awful internal freeze.
Where you're just stuck in your own head.
Exactly. It's a state where your thought, your need to communicate, just moves faster than your fear. If you can keep going, even after a mistake, you are being fluent.
Okay, wait. That sounds simple in theory. But in that moment, when you make a mistake, you use the wrong word or something, the panic is instant. How do you push through that?
That's the mindset shift. It's absolutely crucial. The research shows that fluent speakers just see mistakes differently. For them, a mistake is just data. It's part of the process.
It's not a stop sign.
It is not a stop sign.
Right.
Whereas for the non-fluent speaker, an error is a full-on red light. They stop, they analyze, they apologize, they get flustered.
So what's the trick?
The trick is to prioritize communication over accuracy in that moment. We're calling it Fluency Principle 1. Fluency is flow, not accuracy.
Flow, not accuracy. I like that.
Your only goal when you're speaking is momentum. Keep going.
Yeah.
The second you stop to find the perfect word, you're killing your own flow.
I think there was a really good analogy for this in the sources.
Oh yeah, the river.
The river, right?
Think of your speech like a river. It's always moving, but of course there are stones in the way.
Obstacles.
The little mistakes. Yeah. Those are the mistakes. Now, the non-fluent speaker stops the entire river to try and pull out every single stone.
Which would take forever.
And kills the flow. But the fluent speaker, the water flows around the stones. It might make a little splash, but the river keeps moving. The movement is the fluency.
Okay, so if the goal is movement, let's identify what's actually stopping it.
Right.
What are those internal habits? We hear learners complain about them all the time.
All the time. My mind goes blank.
I get so nervous. I translate everything in my head first.
I'm terrified of making mistakes.
Right.
And here's the synthesis from the experts. These are not language problems. You don't solve them with another grammar book.
No more flashcards?
No. They are fluency problems.
Yeah.
And they require fluency training. It's a totally different thing. It's a motor skill like learning to drive a car or play an instrument.
That makes so much sense. You don't learn to swim by reading a book about it. You have to get in the water.
You have to get in the water.
So let's talk about that thinking too much issue, because that feels like the #1 flow killer. Why does the brain just short circuit like that?
It's because you're using the wrong brain system for the job. Speaking needs to be automatic, a motor skill. But when you start consciously analyzing grammar rules while you talk...
Wait, is that the past perfect or...
Exactly. Did I use the right preposition there? You're forcing the slow analytical part of your brain to do a job that should be fast and automatic.
I just can't keep up. It's a traffic jam.
A total traffic jam in your head. And here's the funny part. Sometimes learners with less grammar knowledge actually speak more fluently.
Really? How does that work?
Well, they have fewer rules to check in their head. They go with what feels right, and so they hesitate less. The overthinker is paralyzed by their own knowledge.
So the intellectual part is the enemy of the physical act of speaking.
Precisely. And that leads us to the absolute deadliest habit of them all.
Translation.
The translation step. It guarantees that speaking will always be a slow, painful, intellectual exercise.
So let's break that down. The non-fluent speaker has an idea.
Right, idea. Then, step 2, they form a perfect sentence in their native language.
Then step 3, they translate that sentence word for word into English.
And then finally they speak. It's this long, clunky process. That middle step is what's killing them.
So what do fluent speakers do?
They cut it out. It's just idea, straight to English thought, then speaking. It feels fast because they're literally thinking in English. There's no middleman.
But that translation reflex feels so automatic. How do you even start to break that?
You have to stop thinking in single words and start thinking in chunks, in patterns.
What do you mean by chunks?
Well, a fluent speaker doesn't hear, I'm going to the store. They hear, I'm going to the as one block, one unit.
Ah, like a prepackaged phrase.
Exactly. You build fluency by getting comfortable with these patterns, with the rhythm and flow of English sentences, not by memorizing a dictionary. You train your brain to grab the whole pattern at once.
Okay, so if it's a skill like driving, we need a training plan, a blueprint. How do you actually go from just knowing stuff to developing that physical flow?
The first thing, and this is what the research is so clear about, is that most learners are missing one key ingredient in their routine.
Which is?
Speaking practice without pressure.
Without pressure, okay.
Think about it. When do most learners speak English? It's always in a high-stakes situation.
A job interview, a presentation, an exam.
Or just in public where they feel judged. That's not a training ground. That reinforces fear.
Yeah.
You can't build a skill if you're terrified every time you try to use it. You need a safe space first.
And let's bust another myth right here. You don't need advanced English to be fluent.
Not at all. That's such a common trap.
I think we've all met people who use really simple English, but they're incredibly fluent. They're comfortable.
Comfort is the goal. Some of the most fluent speakers we analyzed use basic vocabulary and simple sentences, but they use them confidently, without pausing. The goal isn't to sound like a professor, it's just to sound comfortable.
So what does that training actually look like then?
It has to be daily, not once a week. It has to be without a script. And critically, it has to be without correction pressure. You need to be allowed to make mistakes without stopping.
And using simple language you already know.
About 90% of the time, yes. You're not training vocabulary, you're training the physical and mental act of speaking.
The sources also mentioned something about layers, right? That you can't just jump into the deep end.
Yes, exactly. You build fluency in layers. First, you get comfortable with just making the sounds. then simple sentences, then short, unscripted talks to yourself, then short conversations. Then, way down the line, you get to debates and presentations.
People try to skip the steps.
They skip all the steps. They jump straight to a high-stakes debate and wonder why they freeze. It's because they never trained the foundational skill of just flowing.
So let's get really practical. What's the #1 tool someone listening can use, like today, to create that low-pressure environment?
It's so simple, and the research is overwhelming on this. Self-speaking.
Talking to yourself.
Talking to yourself. It is the ultimate fluency builder.
Why is it so powerful?
Because the conditions are perfect. There's zero fear, zero pressure. And because you're the only one there, your thinking speed automatically increases. You're just practicing the physical act of forming sentences without any of the stress.
So if I'm listening right now, how do I start? What does it look like?
Just narrate your life. As you're making coffee, say it out loud in simple English. I'm pouring the water. Now I'm turning on the machine.
I need to get the milk.
Exactly. When you're walking outside, describe what you see. The sky is blue. I see a red car. It might feel a bit weird at first, but you are literally rewiring your brain to follow that two-step process. Idea straight to English.
So this is the private training field. You build the skill in private so you can eventually perform in public.
That's the perfect way to put it. So many fluent speakers, when you ask them, they admit they spent hours just talking to themselves, practicing in the mirror. You have to make the language comfortable for yourself before you can make it comfortable for anyone else.
So let's bring this all together. What does this deep dive really mean for you, the listener, who feels like you know all the grammar but you just can't speak?
I think the core takeaway is this. Fluency is not about sounding impressive. It's about sounding comfortable. And your listener feels that comfort immediately. It comes from repetition and movement, not from perfection.
Stop chasing perfection.
Stop chasing perfection. Start chasing flow.
And we want to leave you with this one final thought from the synthesis. You don't wait for confidence to magically appear before you start speaking. That's backwards.
Confidence is the result of speaking. It's not a prerequisite. You build it by doing the thing you're afraid of in small, low-pressure ways.
So start small, start simple, but just start moving that river.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if fluency is built in private before it's performed in public, we want to leave you with this question. What is your private training field going to be? What simple daily speaking activity can you start, maybe even today, to turn all that knowledge you have into actual, real flow?
Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.
We'll see you next time. Okay, let's unpack this. I think it's a truly universal and honestly a really painful experience.
It is.
You're in a situation where you need to speak English.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a huge work meeting or, just a casual chat. And then it happens.
The freeze.
The freeze, yeah. It's not just forgetting a word. It's a total shutdown.
Yeah.
Your mind just goes completely blank.
You feel your chest tighten, your heart starts racing.
And all that English you spent years studying, it's just gone. Vanished. It's the English-speaking freeze.
And that feeling, that paralysis, is exactly what we need to zoom in on today. Because the core idea from the sources we're looking at, especially Overcoming the English-Speaking Freeze, a psychological guide, is, well, it's profound.
Okay.
This is not a language failure.
Yeah.
Not at all. It's a purely psychological event. Your brain has literally gone into defense mode.
Defense mode.
Yes, because it perceives speaking English as a threat of being judged, of being embarrassed, or of failing.
So for this deep dive, we are not treating this like a grammar lesson.
No, absolutely not.
We're treating it like a fear retraining exercise.
Yeah.
So our mission for you listening is to really understand why your brain does this, why it's always asking, is this safe? And then
give you the tools, concrete, actionable mental shifts to dismantle that fear response.
Okay, so where do we start? What is the root of this freeze?
Well, it's fascinating because it's directly linked to our most primal survival mechanisms. Humans are hardwired to react to danger in one of 3 ways.
Fight, flight, or freeze.
Exactly. Now, when the danger is a lion, that makes perfect sense. But when the perceived danger is social?
Like looking stupid in a meeting.
Precisely. Losing face, being laughed at. The brain can interpret that as a major threat. And for a lot of language learners, the default response becomes freeze.
So it's the brain's way of trying to protect you.
It is. It thinks that by making you silent, it's making you invisible. And invisibility feels safer than speaking and failing.
Which is a critical distinction. It means it's not about the person being weak or, unskilled.
Not at all.
Their brain has just been programmed programmed by bad experiences to connect English with pain.
Let's talk about that programming. Think about the cumulative effect of past experiences.
Right.
Being corrected really harshly in a classroom full of people.
Or being laughed at during a presentation.
Or that awful crushing feeling when you know the words but you just can't get them out. Your brain doesn't file that as a language lesson.
It files it under threat.
Threat and injury. So the next time you have to speak, your brain pulls up that memory and says, whoa, hold on, we tried this before, it was humiliating, let's just shut the system down.
You know, what's interesting there is the physical side of it. When your body goes into this freeze state, you get that spike of cortisol, right?
Absolutely. The stress hormones flood your system.
And doesn't that physically make it harder to do complex things like speak a language?
It does. It's a neurological fact. When the alarm is tripped, your mental resources get diverted. They move away from your prefrontal cortex.
The smart planning part of the brain.
The part you need for complex language. And all that energy gets redirected to your survival systems. You literally can't think clearly because your brain is in escape mode, not debate mode.
And here's the biggest irony, I think. And this is going to hit home for a lot of people, the ones who study the hardest.
They often suffer the most.
Why is that?
Because freezing has almost nothing to do with how much you know. In fact, the most analytical, intelligent people can struggle more because they are demanding perfection from themselves.
Ah, the perfectionism trap.
It's huge. They set this internal quality bar that's just, it's impossible to meet in a real live conversation. They want every sentence to be perfect, every word pronounced correctly.
And that pressure is the trigger.
That pressure is what flips the switch on the freeze response. It's not the lack of knowledge, it's the weight of the expectation.
Okay, so if fear is the trigger and perfectionism is the amplifier, what's actually breaking down inside the brain? Our sources lay out 4 specific cognitive traps.
And if we can name these traps, we can start to escape them. This is the diagnosis part of the process.
Let's start with cause number 1. I think this one is the biggest. The fear of making mistakes.
Yes.
But let's be clear. It's not a fear of English grammar. It's the fear of being seen as wrong.
It's the social fear, the inner voice saying, what if they judge my accent? What if I use the wrong tense and I look stupid?
And that focus on the potential error. It's like a stop sign. It just slams on the brakes before you even start.
And this is where we have to look at how fluent speakers actually operate. They didn't get fluent by eliminating every single mistake. That's impossible.
So what do?
They eliminated the fear of the mistakes. A mistake is just data. It's part of the conversation. The fear is optional. We have to learn to just let the error happen and keep the conversation moving.
Prioritize continuity over correctness.
Exactly.
Okay, cause 2. This is a process problem I think we all recognize. Translating under pressure.
Oh, this is a classic system collapse. You have an idea, but instead of just saying it in English, you first build the perfect sentence in your native language.
Then you try to translate it word for word.
And in a real-time conversation, that process is just fatally slow. It's like trying to run 3 heavy programs on an old computer. It lags.
And you feel the lag.
You feel the lag, you sense the other person waiting, and that feeling creates panic.
Yeah.
And panic leads straight to the freeze.
It's funny, translation is great for reading or writing when you have all the time in the world.
But for speaking, it steals all your mental speed. You just run out of time. The brain is trying to be precise when it just needs to be prompt.
Which leads us to cause 3, and this is a big one for how we learn languages. No stored speaking patterns.
This is a huge aha moment. You can know thousands of words and all the grammar rules.
But if you don't have ready-made phrases.
You are trying to build every single sentence from scratch, from zero.
Can you give me an example of what you mean by a pattern?
Think of it like driving a stick shift. At first, you think through every single step. Clutch in, shift, clutch out. It's exhausting.
Right.
A fluent driver doesn't think, they just do. It's muscle memory. Language patterns are the same. Fluent speakers aren't building sentences. They're deploying chunks of language.
So things like,
from my point of view, or what I mean is, or let me just explain. These are the scaffolds. They buy you time. They keep you moving. Without them, the effort is overwhelming and the brain just defaults to freezing. It's easier.
And that brings us to the last one, cause 4, which is very psychological, over-awareness of self.
The destructive self-monitoring loop. You're speaking, but you're also watching yourself speak.
You're focused inward, on your accent, on your grammar, on the little pauses you're taking.
And you're analyzing the listener's face for any sign of judgment. This internal surveillance just steals all your mental energy.
So you have no bandwidth left for the actual message.
None. Speaking requires an outward focus. On your idea, on the person you're talking to. When all your attention is on your performance, the speech mechanism just collapses.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem. It's a defense mechanism fueled by perfectionism, running on these 4 broken cognitive processes.
Right.
Now let's pivot. Let's get into the solutions. The 5 practical fixes from the source material to actually retrain the brain.
Let's do it.
So fix number 1. This requires a pretty big mental shift. Lower the internal standard.
This is everything. If perfectionism is the cause, then the cure is embracing good enough.
You have to aggressively lower that internal quality bar.
The shift has to be from I must sound correct to I must stay understandable. That's the new goal. Understandable is enough.
And if you listen to native speakers, really listen.
You'll notice they do it all the time. They pause, they restart sentences, they use filler words. The key difference is they don't judge themselves for it. They just keep going. Continuity over correctness.
Okay, fix number 2. This one is very practical. Train speaking in safe environments.
If your brain thinks speaking is dangerous, you have to prove it wrong. You do that with low stakes, private practice.
What does that look like?
It means proving to your brain over and over that the act of speaking is not a threat. We're talking about maybe 5 minutes a day of structured monologue.
Just talking to yourself?
Yes, but with a purpose. Describe your commute out loud. Narrate how you're making your coffee. Record a voice note to yourself about your day. Confidence is built on familiarity. Every time you speak safely, you're rewriting that old code that says, danger.
The key there seems to be structured monologue, not just random thoughts.
Exactly. Give yourself a simple framework, like the 5 W's, what did I do, where did I go, who did I see? It keeps the task manageable while building those speaking patterns we talked about.
This leads right into fix number 3, which is a tool for managing panic in the moment. Use fillers to buy time.
We have to completely reframe how we see fillers. They are not mistakes.
They're tools.
They are fluency tools. Their most important job is to break the silence. When you pause, that silence can feel like failure, which triggers the panic.
If you say something like, well, or,
Or, let me think about that for a second. You keep the sound going, the engine is still running. That gives your brain the breathing room it needs to find the right word without setting off the emergency alarm.
Okay, fix 4 is a tactical one. I like this. Speak in short sentences.
This is about managing cognitive load. Long, complex sentences are a minefield. The longer the sentence, the more chances there are to make a mistake.
Which increases the fear.
It's a vicious cycle. Short sentences give you a sense of control. So instead of one long, tangled explanation, break your thought into 3 simple, clear statements.
So instead of a long sentence, you say, I have an idea. It's a simple solution. Let me explain.
Exactly. It sounds more confident. And honestly, listeners prefer clarity over complexity every single time.
And that brings us to the final fix. Fix number 5, which might be the most important one. Shift focus from yourself to the message.
This is the master switch. You have to consciously turn off that internal camera that's critiquing your performance.
How do you do that?
It's an active choice. When you speak, you decide to focus entirely on the listener and on your idea. You stop asking, how do I sound? And you start asking, is my message clear? Does the listener understand?
That shift from performance to connection.
That's it. It instantly frees up all that mental energy you were wasting on self-monitoring, and speech starts to flow more automatically. Because communication is about connection, not perfection.
So we have to be realistic here. For someone listening, someone who has felt this freeze dozens of times, it's not going to just vanish overnight.
That's absolutely true. This is a deeply ingrained response, but the good news is that the brain can be retrained. Every single time you speak, despite the fear, every time you choose to use a filler or a short sentence and just keep going, you are weakening that freeze response.
So every safe speaking experience is a vote for a new pattern.
It's a tiny repetition that helps rewrite the fear memory. You are slowly, surely training your brain to see English not as a source of danger, but as a tool for connection.
The final truth, then, that we can pull from all this is pretty simple. Fluency really begins the moment you stop protecting yourself.
And you start expressing yourself.
That's the line you have to cross.
It is.
So a final thought for you to take away. If your brain is treating speaking English like a real physical danger, what's one simple, safe repetition you can commit to doing today? Right now. Something to prove to your brain that it's actually safe. Maybe it's just describing the 3 steps you took to make your last cup of coffee. Out loud. Start small. Stay understandable. And just keep expressing yourself.
Welcome to the deep dive. You've sent us the sources, the research, the notes, and we are here to cut a clear path right to the insights that matter. Today, we're tackling something that I think almost every single language learner feels. It's that sinking feeling that you're just speaking too slowly.
Mm-hmm.
You know the situation. You're in a conversation. Things are moving fast. You totally understand what's being said. You have the vocabulary. The answer is right there in your head.
Fully formed.
Perfectly formed in your native language. But then you try to say it in English and it sputters. The words get stuck. They come out all wrong, or, well, they don't come out at all. And the pressure builds and you just freeze.
It's a very common and very frustrating experience.
Right. And we hear it all the time. I just need to speak faster. But here's the pivot. Our sources reveal that focusing on the speed of your mouth is, well, it's a profound mistake.
A total misconception.
The real problem isn't your mouth at all. It's the huge gap between how fast you can think and how fast you can speak.
That's the core of it.
So let's unpack this, because our core thesis today, based on everything we've read, is that you literally cannot speak faster than you can think in English. If your brain is slowly translating and checking for grammar, your speech will always lag behind.
It doesn't matter how many grammar rules you know. It's absolutely correct. This shifts the entire problem away from mechanics, trying to move your mouth faster, and moves it into cognitive production.
So fluency is a brain skill, not a mouth skill.
Fundamentally, it's a measure of how quickly your mind can actually produce ideas in English. So trying to force yourself to speak faster through, say, drills, it just fails. The engine underneath can't keep up.
Okay, so let's define this fluency gap, because the difference between a fluent speaker and someone who's struggling really comes down to one thing.
Or rather, the lack of several really agonizing steps.
Right. So when a fluent speaker is talking, the sources are clear. There's no internal translation going on. They aren't searching for words one by one. Their thoughts are just already there in English. Speaking is just releasing those thoughts.
Exactly. Now, contrast that with the non-fluent speaker. This is where you see why it's so slow and, frankly, so exhausting. Our sources detail this 4-step assembly line that the brain is trying to run in real time.
An assembly line, I like that. So what's step one?
Step 1, the idea pops into your head. Step 2, it immediately defaults to your native language. The comfortable zone.
The path of least resistance.
Always. Step 3, now the brain starts the really slow, heavy work of translating it into English. And then step 4, and this is the killer, a mandatory perfectionist grammar check.
Oh, that final check.
Right. Is this word right? Is the tense correct? Only after it passes all 4 of those gates does the brain finally let you speak.
Wow, that is a staggering cognitive load. 4 steps for every single thought.
Precisely. And what happens when you add social pressure? Someone's waiting for an answer.
The whole system just collapses.
The whole thing just grinds to a halt. That's where you get the long silences, the broken sentences, the freezing up. The processing load is just way too high.
So the conclusion here is unavoidable. If you feel like you have a fluency problem, you really have a thinking problem. The mission isn't to train your mouth. It's to train your brain to think faster in English.
And that's the good news. It is absolutely trainable. Your thinking speed is like a muscle. But just like with muscles, you have to do the right exercises. If you do the wrong ones, you just stay slow.
So let's get into those. What are the barriers that are keeping people's thinking speed stuck in first gear?
Okay, the first big one, and maybe the most common mistake, is barrier 1, thinking in full sentences too early.
I think everyone can relate to this. That urge to have the perfect, grammatically beautiful sentence all built in your head before you dare to say a word.
And that's the trap. It's impossible. You're guaranteeing cognitive overload. Fluent speakers just don't do that.
What do they do instead?
Well, the sources say they think in ideas, in rough phrases, in intentions. The grammar, the sentence structure, it sort of appears automatically. It's muscle memory, not manual construction.
So you have to shift your whole mindset from asking, how do I say this perfectly, to what?
To just, what do I want to say? Meaning first, language will follow.
So if I want to politely disagree with someone, instead of searching for the perfect grammatical structure,
you just focus on the intention, that feeling of polite disagreement, and your brain will activate a ready-made pattern, a chunk, like,
I see your point, but, or that's interesting, however.
Exactly. It's so much faster. And that brings us right to the second barrier.
Which is barrier 2, not having enough of those stored phrases, not having the chunks.
Right. If your brain doesn't have those pre-made language blocks, it has no choice but to build everything word by word. And we know that's just fatally slow.
And we're not talking about fancy vocabulary here. We're talking about simple functional shortcuts.
Totally. Things like, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Or what I mean is.
Let's take a look at. Or, from my experience. They seem simple, but they save so much thinking time.
Think of it like this. Chunks are the copy and paste function for your brain. Instead of typing out 4 separate words and then checking the grammar between them, you just grab one ready-made file.
So that's why reading and listening are so critical. You're not just consuming information.
You're filling your brain's hard drive with these essential patterns. Without them, fluency is, well, it's literally impossible. Your brain is always stuck in manual mode.
Okay, so we have these 2 mechanical barriers, but the third one you mentioned is different. It's neurological.
Yes. Barrier 3. Fear interrupts thinking speed.
This is the fight or flight thing, right? The moment you get nervous, your English just vanishes.
It is precisely that. When you feel judged or nervous, your brain shifts resources. It moves away from the creative language-producing part of your brain.
And into what?
Into the limbic system.
Survival mode.
And in survival mode.
In survival mode, your brain slows down anything that isn't essential for survival.
Yeah.
And complex language generation is definitely not essential. It's a luxury. So that's why my English is great at home, alone, but disappears in a meeting. My brain literally feels unsafe, and it pulls the plug.
It pulls the plug on your processing speed.
Yeah.
This isn't just a feeling, it's a physiological event.
Wow. Okay, so that reframes the whole problem. The goal then is to retrain the brain to be comfortable enough to operate at speed.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the solutions, the training. And it's not grammar drills, it's what the sources call micro-thinking exercises.
Right. And these are powerful because they're low pressure. They bypass that fear response because you're not performing for anyone.
So let's start with the first one, exercise 1, micro thought practice. What does that actually look like?
It's about making English the default setting in your head throughout the day. You deliberately think small, immediate thoughts in English.
So not narrating my whole life story.
No. Much smaller.
Yeah.
Just look around you, think, I'm tired. That's interesting. I don't like this. This makes sense. Or even just labeling things. That's a laptop. It's cold in here.
The goal is just to build speed and automaticity without any pressure.
You're just training the brain over and over that English is the go-to language for immediate internal thoughts.
I like that. Okay, exercise 2 is timed thinking. This one sounds a bit more intense.
It is a little, but it's about building that idea generation speed. You pick a simple topic, your day, your job, food, whatever. You set a short timer, maybe 30 seconds.
And
you just think intensely in English. No speaking, no writing, and absolutely no correcting yourself. Just a pure flow of ideas.
So it's probably going to feel messy, like mental gibberish at first.
It will, and that's okay. That's the point. You're training the content engine, not the delivery system. You're warming up the ideas so that when you do need to speak, they're ready to go.
Like mental sprints.
Exactly like mental sprints.
And finally, exercise 3, answer before perfect. This sounds like it's designed to directly fight that 4-step paralysis.
It's the ultimate antidote to perfectionism. You ask yourself a simple question like, what did you do today? And you answer immediately. No polish, no full sentences. You prioritize speed. So the answer isn't a long monologue. It's worked, busy day, meetings.
So you're just getting the core ideas out. The motto here is speed first, polish later.
Speed first, then fluency, then polish. Accuracy improves naturally over time as your brain gets more comfortable operating quickly and starts relying on all those correct chunks you've absorbed.
That makes sense. You need to get the car moving before you can worry about steering it perfectly.
A perfect analogy. Which brings us to the mindset piece, the fear of the pause. So many learners see a pause as a total failure.
But fluent speakers pause all the time.
All the time. But the difference is they don't panic. A calm pause is just the brain working, retrieving an idea. But a panic pause
triggers survival mode.
And thinking speed drains to 0. You have to learn that silence is not failure. Panic is failure. A relaxed brain is a fast brain.
So that creates a positive loop. The more you trust that the ideas will come, the less you fear the pause. The less you fear, the faster you think.
It's a trainable, self-reinforcing cycle.
Which all ties into this final takeaway, what the sources call Fluency Principle 3. You don't need fast English. You need ready English. And ready English is the result of all these exercises. It's having those familiar phrases, the simple structures, and the confidence to just use them. Speed just shows up on its own when you're ready.
It's a consequence of readiness, not a goal in itself. If you try to force speed without being ready, all you create is anxiety, and you trigger that mental block.
So, to recap the core truth here, the path to fluency isn't about pushing your mouth to go faster, it's about freeing your mind.
When your thinking becomes English, your speaking becomes easy.
You've heard the diagnosis. You're not speaking too slowly. You are, in fact, thinking too slowly in English. And now you have the tools: micro-thought practice, timed thinking, and answer before perfect.
All designed to fix that root cause.
So here's our challenge to you. Don't wait. As soon as this deep dive is over, start your micro-thought practice. Right now. Look around wherever you are, your room, your car. Mentally label 3 things in simple English. Or think of 3 things you need to do next.
Simple phrases.
Simple, immediate phrases. Focus on internal speed, not perfection. Start building that readiness loop right now.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are taking a really deep and unfiltered look at the single biggest hidden blocker that prevents so many of you from achieving that fluid, fast-paced English you've been chasing.
Yeah, and it's not what most people think it is.
Not at all. Forget grammar drills for a second. Forget the vocabulary lists. The roadblock we're talking about today is automatic internal translation.
That little voice in your head.
Exactly. Okay, so let's set up the core scenario, because the sources we looked at show this is almost a universal experience for learners.
Especially intermediate learners.
Yes, you're in a conversation, and this brilliant thought, maybe a joke or a really sharp observation, it appears in your mind.
But it appears in your native language.
And that's where you hit that cognitive speed bump.
Yeah.
You're trying to slowly convert this perfect thought into English. And by the time you've built the sentence,
The moment is gone.
the moment has completely vanished, the conversation has moved on, and you're just left there.
And that gap, that delay, is exactly why so many people say, I know what I want to say, but I just can't say it on time. That feeling of being trapped.
So that's 100% the translation acting as a middleman.
A compulsory middleman.
But hold on, if translation works so well when I'm reading a book or writing an email, why can't we just make it faster for speaking?
Yeah.
Is it just fundamentally broken for conversation?
That is a critical question, and the sources are very clear on this. Translation is an amazing, deliberate process.
Right.
But speaking is real time.
Yeah.
It's instantaneous. When you read or write, you control the clock.
Yeah.
You can pause. You can think. Speaking doesn't wait.
So the speed issue.
It's a design issue. Translation is built for accuracy, not for the split-second speed or real conversation demands. It's just fundamentally too slow.
So our mission for this deep dive is really about bypassing that step. We're not even aiming for perfection, we're aiming for efficiency. Training the brain to go directly from the idea, the feeling, the image, straight into English, without that stopover in the native language.
Exactly. Think of it like this. Your brain is currently wired to take a scenic route, and we need to build it a superhighway.
Okay, so to build that superhighway, we first have to understand why we built the scenic route to begin with. The sources describe translation as a kind of support system.
And that's the key. It's a support system your brain built right at the very beginning of your journey with English.
When it was all new and scary.
Totally. Your brain basically said, okay, I don't understand this new language. I need backup. And that backup, naturally, was your native language. It was a survival mechanism.
A necessary one at the time.
A brilliant one. The problem is, you've gotten better now, but that backup system is still running on autopilot.
Right, and here's the insight I found most important. You can't just decide to stop a habit. You can't just tell your brain, stop translating. So if we can't switch it off, what do?
We replace it. Translation is a habit, a very, very deep cognitive habit. And habits don't just disappear. They get replaced by newer, stronger habits.
So how does that replacement happen?
It happens when you make English so familiar, so accessible, that your brain just decides the backup system is redundant. It's no longer needed. It starts choosing the direct route because it's just faster.
Okay, so let's get into the why. Why does this translation habit stay so active? Let's start with reason number 1, which I think is huge for anyone who learned English in an academic setting.
Oh, for sure. Reason 1. English is treated as information, not a tool. This is a massive distinction.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if most of your experience with English is from textbooks, classes, or exams, your brain files it under knowledge. It's something you study and then recall under specific conditions.
And that just kills fluency. Because fluent speakers don't treat English like information they have to remember.
No, they treat it like a tool. Think about a tool you've mastered, like driving a car. You don't think about the steps, you just do it. You use it to get somewhere.
You use it automatically.
Precisely. When English becomes a tool you use for daily things, for thinking, for complaining, for planning, it moves from that slow, conscious part of your brain to the fast, automatic part.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, reason number 2. This one is all about the pressure of a real-time conversation.
Lack of English thinking time.
So if the only time you ever try to think in English is the exact moment you open your mouth to speak, you're kind of doomed.
You're demanding a performance without any rehearsal. Your brain panics. It hasn't had any low-stakes practice.
Right.
We have to get this. Speaking is not the time to start thinking in English. Speaking should be the time to release the English thinking you've already been doing.
The thinking has to happen earlier.
It has to. Otherwise, you're only ever practicing translation, not direct thought.
Okay, we've talked about the mechanics, but what about emotions? Reason 3 is all psychological.
It is. Fear slows direct access.
Is nervousness really that powerful? Can it actually derail a habit you've been working on?
It absolutely can. When you're stressed or nervous, your brain instantly prioritizes safety over speed. It just defaults to the easiest path.
And the easiest path is always?
Your native language. It feels safe, it feels perfect, so fear kicks in, and boom, you're right back to translating word for word.
And that perfectly explains why someone can think in English just fine when they're alone.
Yes. But the second they're in an important meeting or a party, the fear triggers the backup system and they freeze up.
Okay, that brings us to the most important part of this deep dive. We've defined the problem, we know why it's happening. Now, the solutions.
Actual training methods, not just theory.
Exactly. 6 actionable methods we pulled from the sources designed to replace the habit.
Let's start with method 1, because it directly attacks that problem of no rehearsal time.
Method 1. Think in English before you speak. It sounds so simple, but almost everyone skips it.
They do. You have to start running a kind of soft English commentary in your mind throughout the day.
What does that look like in practice?
It starts really small. You're making coffee. You think, I need milk. You're in traffic. This is so slow. Just narrating your life with simple, functional thoughts.
And the key here is that it's zero pressure. No one's listening.
Yeah.
You're just training your brain to choose English first.
You're building that habit of first resort. You're keeping the English engine warm so it's ready to go when you need it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, method 2. This one's a really cool psychological trick. Replace translation with images.
This is about bypassing language altogether for a second. Instead of taking a thought in your native language and turning it into English words.
You turn it into an image first.
Exactly. So if you want to say, I'm exhausted, don't translate that phrase. Instead, picture yourself slumped over your desk, totally drained. See that image in your mind.
Why did that work?
Because images are processed by a different, much faster part of the brain. Think about how kids learn. They hear dog and they link it to the furry barking thing.
It's sound to image to meaning.
Yes. It's not sound to translation to meaning. Using images reconnects you to that direct, primal way of understanding. It creates a tiny buffer that lets your brain find the English directly.
That's powerful. All right, on to method 3, which is about managing cognitive load. Use simple English first.
So much translation blockage happens because we're trying to say something really complex. The original thought in our native language is nuanced or philosophical.
And trying to translate that perfectly just stalls the whole system.
Completely. So for the sake of fluency, you have to embrace simplicity, at least at first.
So you mean simplify the actual thought?
Yes. If your thought is, the geopolitical ramifications of this are unprecedented, just stop. Don't even try to translate that. Simplify it in your mind to, this is a big deal, or this changes things.
Because fluency is about movement, not elegance.
Not at first. Complexity comes later, once the foundation of speed is there.
Which leads us perfectly into method 4, which is all about preventing that stall. Speak before you're ready.
That moment of silence is a killer. It's an open invitation for translation to take over.
If you wait in your head trying to build that perfect sentence, you're basically giving your native language control.
The only solution is to start moving your mouth. Start talking immediately, even if you only have the first 2 words of your thought.
Using what the sources call starters.
Exactly. Little phrases like, I think, or, well, for me, or, actually, you know what?
Those are genius. They keep the channel open. They tell your brain, we're still in English mode.
And they buy you 2 or 3 precious seconds to find the rest of your thought in English instead of defaulting back to your native language in that awkward silence.
Okay, method 5 is where the real training comes in. This one feels a bit more rigorous. Train with forced English windows.
This is about creating short, non-negotiable blocks of time every day where English is the only option.
So like 5 or 10 minutes.
5 minutes is perfect to start, and you need a rule set.
What are the rules inside that window?
The rules are absolute. Rule 1, your native language is forbidden. Rule 2, silence is forbidden.
Wow, so broken English is okay.
Broken English is 100% okay. In fact, it's expected. You just can't stop.
Yeah.
If you get stuck, you simplify your sentence or use a starter, but the English engine must keep running.
This sounds tough, but effective.
It builds incredible mental stamina. You could narrate your day out loud, explain a concept to an imaginary person, whatever. You just can't break.
And that takes us right to the final and maybe most important one, method 6. It's psychological. Accept imperfect English.
We're circling right back to the root cause,
Right.
fear. Translation kicks in because we're chasing perfection. We want to sound smart and correct.
And our native language feels like the only way to be correct.
Exactly. But if we agree that fluency is about movement, not accuracy,
Then you have to give yourself permission to be imperfect. Publicly.
you have to. You must accept that you're going to say the wrong sentence, the simple sentence, the incomplete sentence. The trade-off is speed now, and accuracy will catch up later. If you wait for accuracy, you never develop speed.
So, as we start doing these things, the mental commentary, the image replacement, the forced windows, how do we know it's working? What are the first signs?
Well, at first, it's just these tiny moments. A word or a short phrase will just appear automatically, with none of that usual internal struggle.
You'll respond just a little bit faster than you used to.
And those small wins are everything. They prove the training is taking hold.
And then I assume it grows from there.
Yes. The bigger transformation is when you realize you've stopped preparing sentences in your head. You stop building a mental script before you speak.
You just start reacting.
You just start reacting in real time, naturally. And that right there, that's the emergence of fluency.
But we should add a really important reminder here from the sources. This isn't a magic fix. Translation might come back.
Oh, it will. Especially under stress or when you're really tired. That's totally normal.
Wow.
After 20 years of a habit, it doesn't just vanish forever.
So what's the definition of true fluency then?
True fluency isn't the complete absence of translation. It's the ability to recognize when that old habit tries to creep back in, and to have the tools, simplicity, starters, movement, to keep going despite it.
So let's wrap this up by coming back to the most powerful truth we found in the sources.
Please.
You don't stop translating by trying harder or by getting angry at yourself. You stop translating by making English so familiar, so functional, that translation just becomes unnecessary.
It becomes the slow, inefficient option. So here's a final thought. If fluency is about treating English as a tool you use automatically, then look at your routine for tomorrow.
Okay.
What specific part of your day, your commute, your morning coffee, folding laundry, what 5-minute slot can you claim as your first daily, non-negotiable, forced English window?
Make an appointment with yourself.
Make that appointment and keep it. Starting now?
That is the actionable takeaway. Establish that window, start the commentary, and try replacing words with images. Go put it into practice. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. If you're learning a new language, you've definitely heard this before. You might have even said it yourself. I just can't improve my speaking. I don't have anyone to practice with. This one belief, it stops millions of learners in their tracks. They're just stuck waiting. Okay, let's unpack this.
And we really have to just state this up front. That belief is, it's completely wrong. It's actually surprising. But some of the most fluent English speakers you'll ever meet, they built their confidence, their core speaking ability long before they ever spoke to another person.
That's a massive shift in thinking, right? Because everything we hear is about interaction. Find a native speaker, get feedback. So if confidence doesn't start with other people, where does it come from?
It starts with your relationship with your own voice. We almost always skip this part. I mean, think about it. If you cringe when you hear yourself speak English, if you just shut down, no speaking partner in the world can fix that discomfort. That has to be built alone first, in a safe, judgment-free space.
So the mission for this deep dive is really clear. We're not talking about needing a speaking partner. What you actually need is a speaking environment. And the best one, the safest, the most controllable one is the one you create for yourself. So we're going to get into exactly how to build that environment.
Right. Because so many learners are just stuck in this waiting game. They're waiting for the perfect situation, the fluent partner, the patient group. But that means they're waiting for confidence to just appear out of nowhere. And that's not how it works. Confidence comes after you start speaking, not before.
And let's just break the myth right now that talking to yourself is weird. Honestly, if you're trying to master a complex skill, not practicing alone is the weird thing. Just think about any high-level performer.
Absolutely. An athlete runs plays over and over again. In isolation, it has to become muscle memory. A musician practices scales for hours alone, not for an audience. They're building automaticity.
Or a speaker rehearsing in an empty room.
Exactly. Language is a performance skill. It's no different.
What's fascinating here is the psychology behind it. This is where it gets really interesting. When you speak alone, your brain gets one really powerful message. And that message is, speaking English is safe.
And safety is everything. For anyone who follows the research, we're talking about what Stephen Krashen called the affective filter.
Oh, that's a great connection. Can you explain that a bit more for us?
The affective filter is basically an emotional wall. When we're stressed or anxious or afraid of making a mistake, that wall goes up. And when the wall is high, our brain is in defense mode. It's not in learning mode. So most learners associate speaking English with danger, embarrassment, correction, awkward silences.
And the brain just shuts down. The part that's supposed to be finding words is suddenly dealing with a threat.
Exactly. But solo speaking, it removes all of that. The filter drops to zero. Your brain can relax. And we know relaxed brains learn and access information much, much faster. You're moving the language from just knowing the rule to using it without thinking.
Okay, but I have to challenge that a little. If I'm practicing alone all the time, aren't I just reinforcing my own mistakes? How is that better than getting corrected by a partner?
That's a fair question, but it misses the goal of this first phase. You're not practicing for perfection. You're practicing for flow, for automaticity. Think about it. Once you have a fast, confident flow, even with some mistakes, it is so much easier to go back and fix those small errors later. Trying to build flow and be perfect at the same time is what causes people to freeze.
So it's about speed and repetition first, correction later. It makes sense. Practicing alone gives you things a real conversation can't. There's no interruptions, no pressure. You can say the same sentence 10 times if you want until it feels natural. That's where the real speed comes from. All right, so we've established the why. Solo practice is faster, it's psychologically safer, and it builds that automatic quality. Now we need the how, the actual techniques. And we're not talking about just, stand in front of a mirror for an hour. That's not sustainable. We're talking about things that fit into a real life. Here's where it gets really interesting, because these are about maximum results from a minimal time investment.
Let's start with the absolute foundation. Technique number 1, daily self-talk. It's the simplest and probably the most powerful habit you can build. You just narrate what you're doing out loud.
And this is the really mundane stuff, right? Like, okay, I'm making coffee, I need to get the filter.
Yeah.
Or when you're getting dressed, I'll wear the blue shirt today.
Exactly. And they don't even have to be perfect sentences. The goal is just to get English out of your mouth. You're training the muscles. You're closing that gap between thinking a word and saying it. Less hesitation there means less hesitation in a real conversation. It's a direct transfer.
Okay, so that's the base layer. What's the next step up?
Technique 2 is to describe your day out loud. This one is a little more structured. You take 2 to 5 minutes, maybe on your commute or in the shower, and you talk through your day, what happened, what you did, and how you felt about it.
And this is so important because it builds what you could call narrative fluency. It's not just about grammar. It's about telling a story, connecting ideas.
Yeah.
You're practicing all those little connector words like first and then and after that.
Right. And if you practice using a word like consequently when you're alone and there's no pressure, it's much more likely to just pop out when you need it in a real conversation. If you don't, your brain will freeze trying to find it.
Moving on, technique number 3. Talk to an imaginary listener.
Yes. This is where you start to bridge the gap to real communication. You just pretend someone is there with you and you explain something to them.
And you can change who that person is, right? Like, explain your job to a 5-year-old. That forces you to be simple. Or explain a problem to your boss. That forces you to be clear and organized.
It's such a powerful bridge. You're practicing all the skills of real conversation, clarity, tone, organization, but with none of the fear. You're basically removing the fear of a real listener before you even meet one.
Okay, next one. This one, I think, tackles the biggest psychological hurdle for a lot of people. Technique 4, voice notes.
Get out your phone, open the voice recorder, and just talk for 1 or 2 minutes. And the goal here is absolutely not to judge yourself. Not for grammar, not for accent, nothing. The only goal is to get comfortable with the sound of your own voice speaking English.
I have to emphasize this. You will probably hate the sound of your voice at first. Pretty much everyone does. It sounds different on a recording. But that cringe feeling, it fades with exposure. You just have to push through it.
It's a huge insight. Because once you accept your own voice as your voice for English, a massive internal barrier just crumbles. You're telling yourself, this is how I sound, and that's okay. Confidence just skyrockets after that.
Okay, one final technique. This one is a pure flow drill. Technique 5, one topic speaking.
Simple. You pick one topic for the day, your favorite food, a goal you have, anything, and you speak about it for just 60 seconds.
But there's a really important rule here. The rule is you cannot stop. And you cannot restart. If you get stuck, you repeat your last word or phrase until a new one comes. You're training your brain that forward momentum is more important than perfection.
Okay, so now you have the techniques, but they won't work if you don't have the right mindset. The whole system falls apart if you're still judging yourself by those old perfectionist standards. We have to redefine what confidence even means here.
So what is it then? How do we measure confidence if not by perfect grammar?
Confidence isn't speaking perfectly. It's staying calm while you're speaking imperfectly. It's trusting that even if you make a mistake, you can keep going and the words will come. And that trust, that's what you build in private. Every time you speak alone, you're proving to your brain, see, nothing bad happened.
So let's talk about the mental rules to protect that confidence. Rule number 1, never ever stop mid-sentence because you think you made a grammar mistake. Just finish the thought. Get to the end of the idea. Flow is the priority.
Rule 2, silence is allowed. Panic is not. This is huge. When your mind goes blank, just take a calm pause. It signals confidence. A rushed, panicked restart just signals fear, which makes things worse. So just breathe.
And rule 3, simple English is powerful English. You are not trying to be a poet. You are trying to communicate. Fluent speakers use the most direct language to get their point across. Keep it simple.
And if we connect all this to the bigger picture, what happens after a few weeks of this is pretty incredible. When you finally do enter a real conversation, your mouth is already used to making English sounds. Your brain is under way less pressure because this isn't a new, scary activity anymore. It's a daily habit.
The environment doesn't feel totally new. You have proof, all those voice notes, all those minutes of self-talk, that you can actually do this. And the words just, they come faster. Especially those little connecting words.
And the ultimate goal is you stop feeling like, okay, warning, I'm speaking English now. You just feel like, I'm speaking, that's it. That's the feeling of fluency.
So to really make this work, let's quickly cover the mistakes to avoid, the things that will kill your progress.
First, don't just practice in your head. You have to actually make sound. You need the physical practice. Second, don't wait to be perfect. Your first attempt at a 1-minute talk will be messy. That's a success because you did it.
Third, stopping when you make a mistake. We covered this, but it's the biggest one. It trains you to be hesitant. And fourth, only practicing once a week. This is a daily drill, even if it's just for 2 minutes. Consistency is everything.
And finally, don't overcorrect yourself during the practice. Finish your minute of speaking, then maybe note 1 or 2 things to work on later. Don't stop the flow. Fluency grows from movement, not from constant correction.
That's the bottom line, isn't it? Fluency grows through movement. If you're always stopping yourself, you're training yourself to be afraid. You're building that wall higher.
So let's just anchor this whole deep dive with one truth. If you are not confident speaking English when you are alone, you will never be confident speaking it with other people. That internal barrier has to fall first.
You have to build that fluency in private. Use these techniques every day. Then the public confidence it shows up naturally. Stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to speak.
And the final question for you to think about is this. Are you waiting for a partner to learn a language, or are you waiting for a partner to give you permission to feel safe? You don't need their permission. You can create that safety for yourself. So pick one technique. Just one. Maybe it's the 2-minute voice note. Maybe it's just narrating, making your coffee tomorrow morning. Start today. You are your own best speaking partner.
Welcome to the deep dive. So we've got these excerpts from The Architecture of Fluent Sentence Flow, and our mission today is, well, it's to get to the heart of what real fluency sounds like.
Exactly. It's that final hurdle, right? You know the words, you know the grammar, but when you actually speak, it still comes out.
Broken. disconnected.
Yeah, that stop-start kind of robotic pattern. It's so frustrating for people who are actually really good at English.
Okay, let's just dig into that right away.
Yeah.
Because we all confuse being correct with being fluent, but they're not the same thing at all.
Not at all. And the source makes this point so clearly. Fluency isn't about being fast, and it's not even about using fancy words. It's about continuity.
Continuity, just keeping the conversation moving.
Right. Because when that flow is missing, even if your grammar is perfect, you sound hesitant. You sound less confident than you actually are.
So our deep dive today is really about the architecture of that continuity. The sources define this flow as basically the ability to get from one idea to the next without that mental roadblock.
And here's the reveal. Fluent speakers don't just get this by accident. It's not magic. They're using specific tools, what the source calls fluency engine.
Connectors, chunks, and fillers.
Those are the big three. They're the things that stitch it all together.
But before we even get to the tools, we have to talk about the mindset.
Yeah.
Because the problem, it starts in your head, right?
Absolutely. The root cause is the cognitive load. I mean, if you're a learner who's struggling, you're trying to build every single sentence from zero.
From scratch.
From scratch. You finish one thought and then your brain just panics. Okay, what's the next verb? What's the right preposition?
And that's when you get that I think English is important because it's just exhausting. It kills all momentum.
Exactly. And the huge contrast, the big mental shift, is that fluent speakers don't build sentences.
They release patterns.
They release patterns. It's a completely different way of thinking. Releasing a pattern that's already in your head takes so much less energy than trying to calculate grammar on the fly.
Okay, so unpack that for us. Releasing patterns. What does that actually look like in a real, spontaneous conversation?
It means you're thinking in organized idea blocks, not in single words.
Idea blocks.
Yeah. So if I ask you a question, your mind doesn't start with, okay, word one, word two. Instead, it organizes the structure. Block one, my opinion. Block two, my reason. Block three, a quick example.
So the structure comes first, before the words.
The structure is there first, then you just use the language tools, these fluency engines, to connect those blocks. That's why spontaneous speech from a fluent speaker still sounds organized, even if they stumble on a word here and there.
That feels like, I don't know, like moving from laying bricks one by one to just snapping together these big pre-made walls.
That's a perfect analogy, and those fluency engines are the mortar that holds it all together and keeps you moving forward.
All right, let's look at the engines themselves, the architecture of continuity. What are these things that buy you thinking time?
Okay, so the first one is sentence starters, the entry points.
I think, or for me, things like that.
Exactly. They seem so basic, but their job is huge. They stop you from freezing up right at the beginning. That's when the panic is highest.
That's a verbal buffer.
Yeah.
You launch the starter, and your brain gets a second or two to actually figure out what you're going to say.
It's the ignition key. You turn it before you hit the gas. The source gives great examples. The main point is, or my favorite, what I mean is...
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
It's not just filler. It's a professional tool for spontaneity. It breaks the paralysis.
Okay, so that's engine one. Starters get you going. What's next?
The second engine, connectors, the bridges. This is how you stop giving one-line answers and start telling a story.
Right, so you don't just say, I like the city, it's busy, I go to the park.
Exactly. Those ideas are just floating there, disconnected. Connectors give them movement. They show the relationship between your ideas.
So using because or so or however.
That's why. Are you showing cause? Because. Are you showing contrast? But adding something else also. It seems simple, but it creates a logical journey for the listener.
And what's interesting is that the sentences themselves can be really simple, but adding that connector suddenly makes the whole thing sound more sophisticated.
It does, because you're guiding the listener's thought process. You're laying down the tracks for them.
And that brings us to the third one, which is probably the most counterintuitive for learners. Fillers.
Yes, the flow protectors. So many people are taught that fillers are mistakes, that they're a sign you're bad at English.
Don't say
Right. But that's just wrong. Fluent speakers use them all the time, constantly.
Why, though? What's the function?
The function is to prevent silence. Silence is what breaks the flow. Silence kills the rhythm. A filler protects you from that silence.
So, isn't a failure to find a word? It's actually the sound of your brain looking for the word.
Precisely. And phrases like well, or you know, or actually, they're essential tools. Think about it. When someone starts a sentence with well, oh, it signals something. It prepares you for a more nuanced or maybe slightly different opinion.
Okay, so the whole system works together. Starters launch you, connectors link your ideas, and fillers keep the engine from stalling out.
It's a complete system for continuity. Now let's talk about how you actually train this, because that's what everyone listening really needs, the practical stuff.
Let's do it. What's technique number 1?
Technique 1 is the 3-part sentence pattern. This is so powerful. You train yourself to expand every answer into 3 parts. Opinion, then reason, then example.
Opinion, reason, example.
Okay. So if I ask you, do you enjoy learning new languages? You can't just say yes.
Right, I'd have to.
Yeah.
I'd say, yes, I really enjoy learning new languages. That's the opinion. Because it opens up, totally new ways of seeing the world.
Yeah.
The reason.
Yep.
For instance, learning about Spanish grammar completely changed how I think about my own language. The example.
Perfect. See? That flows. It's a complete, organized thought. It trains your brain to automatically look for the next piece of information instead of just stopping.
It forces you to continue. I like that. What's technique 2?
This one is extend, don't restart. The idea is when you finish a sentence, your default instinct should be to add to it, not to stop cold.
Okay, so instead of stopping after I like my job and then starting a new thought,
you immediately extend it. You say, I like my job, but the commute is really long, or because I get to learn new things every day.
So you're using a connector to keep that forward energy going.
Exactly. Restarting is the enemy. It kills your momentum and your confidence. Extension is your friend. You just keep the ball rolling.
Even if you're not 100% sure where you're going next.
Especially then. You have to trust that the momentum will carry you.
Okay, technique 3 is sock repetition. This sounds kind of redundant.
It sounds like a mistake, but it's a critical time-buying tool. When you have a complex idea to explain, your brain needs a second to get the next part ready.
So you repeat the last point in a slightly different way.
You do. So you might say, the project was incredibly difficult. I mean, it really wasn't easy for anyone on the team.
It wasn't easy. It's basically just repeating incredibly difficult.
Yes, but it does 2 things. It adds clarity, and more importantly, it bought your brain 2 seconds to figure out the next logical point in the story without just going silent. It's a very, very natural habit.
And the 4th technique is all mental. Think 1 sentence ahead.
This is moving from being reactive to being proactive. While you're saying sentence 1, a small part of your brain is already lining up the idea for sentence 2. Not the words, just the concept.
So while I'm saying the hotel was beautiful, my brain is already queuing up, next, talk about the food.
Yes, because flow breaks when your mind goes empty. If the next idea is already waiting in the wings, the transition is seamless. You just need a simple connector like, and also, and you're off.
This all really centers on one thing, continuation.
Which brings us to the big one, the ultimate drill. The daily flow practice.
The ultimate test. Okay, how does it work?
It's simple. You pick one topic, anything, your breakfast, your favorite movie, and you have to speak for 60 seconds.
A full minute. Okay, what are the rules?
2 rules, and they are non-negotiable. 1, no stopping. 2, no restarting.
Whoa. So if I make a grammar mistake, I just have to ignore it.
You have to ignore it and keep going. If you try to stop, correct yourself, and restart the sentence, the exercise is over. You failed. The goal is flow, not perfection.
But what if I just freeze? My mind goes totally blank. It's gonna happen.
And that's where the safety net comes in. The moment you feel yourself freezing, you have to use a filler or a starter. You are required to say something like, well, what I mean is, or let me think about that for a second.
So you're training a new reflex. Instead of panicking and going silent, your brain learns to deploy a fluency tool.
You got it. It rewires your failure response. This one exercise done every day will dramatically improve your flow because it teaches you that continuing is more important than being perfect.
As we start to wrap this up, let's circle back to that core idea. Simple sentences that are connected smoothly are just. They're so much more powerful than complex ones that are delivered hesitantly.
Clarity is confidence. Complexity without flow just creates confusion for you and for the person listening. A fluent speaker's priority is always making the journey smooth for the listener.
So the big mental shift here, the question we should be asking ourselves is, it's not, is this sentence correct?
No. The question you should be asking is, can I continue?
Can I continue to the next idea? That's liberating.
It is. Because fluency is continuity. If you can keep the stream going, you sound fluent, you sound confident. The focus has to be on connection, not perfection.
And that's what we'll leave everyone with, the big truth from these sources. Fluent speakers don't necessarily speak better English.
They just connect English better. And connection is a skill. It's something anyone can train starting today. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we've gathered your sources, articles, a ton of research notes, and some really insightful personal observations on, well, what might be one of the most frustrating learning curves out there.
Language fluency.
Language fluency, exactly.
Yeah.
Our mission today is a deep dive into why, huge effort can sometimes lead to almost zero results. I mean, if you've spent months practicing a language every single day, only to just freeze up when a native speaker asks you a simple question, then you know this exact pain.
You absolutely do.
So the big question is, why do some people practice daily and see this amazing improvement, while others just hit a wall and stay stuck?
It's a classic paradox, isn't it? But the sources we looked at are pretty clear on this. The answer is not motivation, and it's definitely not effort.
Okay, so what is it?
The huge majority of learners who have stalled, even the ones practicing every day, are all suffering from the same thing. A fundamental lack of structure.
Structure, not just random effort.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. Most people treat speaking practice so randomly. They'll speak when they feel confident or, when they happen to have a spare 10 minutes.
Or when they remember to message their language partner.
Right. And fluency, which is really just spontaneous cognitive muscle memory, it doesn't grow in randomness. It needs a system, a predictable, scalable system. If your practice has no direction, no progression, it's going to stall out.
So we're not here to talk about what to learn today. We're here to talk about how to train.
Yes.
We're basically going to build a system right now for you, especially if you're busy, maybe a bit shy, or have been inconsistent in the past. We need something that trains thinking speed, sentence flow, and confidence all in the right order.
And we should be really explicit here about how accessible this is. The system only requires about 15 to 30 minutes a day, and it just removes all those typical barriers.
So you don't need a speaking partner.
Nope. No speaking partner, no need for hours of free time, no perfect grammar, and definitely no expensive courses. It just requires structure. That's the only thing you have to bring to the table.
Okay, but before we jump into the 4 steps of that structure, there's one thing we have to cover first. It's like the single core rule that if you ignore it, this whole system just breaks before you even start.
This is truly the key. It's the biggest insight from all the research. You have to radically change your perspective on what you're doing. You have to accept this one rule. Speaking practice is training, not performance.
That distinction feels so critical.
It is.
Because if you approach your daily session and you're treating it like a performance, where you have to be eloquent and impressive and make no mistakes.
The result is instant fear.
Right. And fear is the fastest way to kill any kind of spontaneous language.
And that's exactly why we call it training. During real training, you're allowed to look clumsy. You're just running drills. You're allowed to fail.
Like a musician practicing scales or something.
Exactly. They aren't worried about an audience. They're just focused on building that mechanical speed and consistency.
So when you adopt that training mindset, what does that actually look like in your daily 20 minutes? What are you giving yourself permission to do?
Everything you need to grow. Mistakes are allowed. Repetition is not just allowed, it's encouraged. Pauses are absolutely allowed.
Okay.
And this is so important. Simple, basic English is encouraged. You are not writing a thesis paper here. You're building neural pathways. This mindset is what protects your fluency from that internal critic.
Which is always the loudest voice in the room.
Always.
Okay, armed with that shield, that training over performance mindset, let's get into the system itself. The 4-step daily speaking system. It's designed to be done in sequence, takes about 20 to 30 minutes, and each step hits a different fluency muscle.
Right.
Step 1, we start easy, always, the warm-up. You wouldn't go straight to heavy lifting at the gym, you'd get injured. So we start light. The sources call it simple conversation. What does that actually mean?
So the activity itself is just speaking to yourself out loud.
Which can feel awkward.
It can feel very awkward, especially if you're shy, but it's non-negotiable. The goal is just to remove that physical and mental stiffness of starting. You're not trying to think deep thoughts, you're just vocalizing.
Okay, so what are you talking about?
Just talk about what you're doing right now, how you're feeling, what's around you. Things like, I'm making a coffee right now and the water is taking forever to boil, or I feel a bit distracted today because my schedule is so busy.
I think just acknowledging that awkwardness is key. You're giving yourself permission to look and feel a little silly for 5 minutes, but the benefit is huge. It's like stretching before you exercise. You're telling your brain, okay, English mode is on and it's safe.
That's it, exactly.
Okay, so warm-up is done. Now we move into step 2, structured speaking. This is 5 to 10 minutes, the stiffness is gone, and we're ready to build a coherent thought.
Right.
You choose just one topic. Work, your studies, your daily life, maybe something stressful, or your goals for the week.
And the purpose here is to shift your focus. You're not just forming words anymore, you're connecting them.
Okay.
We're building the architecture of a complete thought. And you should be speaking slowly. There's no rush here because the focus is on structure, not on speed.
So how do you do that?
This is where you use specific sentence patterns, like a scaffold. Once you have your topic, you actively lean on structures like, I think because aid, or one reason is aid, and for example, a.
Wait, can we just pause there for a second? Why is focusing on a simple structure like, I think because, so important for fluency? Isn't that just like basic grammar?
It is basic grammar, but it's advanced cognitive training. See, when you speak freely, your brain is juggling 2 huge tasks at once, coming up with the next idea and linking it to the last one.
Okay.
This sentence scaffolding, the I think because part, it temporarily takes the pressure off of generating ideas. It forces your brain to focus all its power just on the linking mechanism.
So you're training the muscle that's responsible for flow.
You're training the exact muscle that gets lost when people freeze up.
Yeah.
It makes the jump between thoughts automatic.
I get it. Okay, so we've warmed up, we've practiced linking ideas, and now we hit the growth zone. Step 3, free speaking. 5 to 10 minutes, you set a timer, and you just go.
This is where fluency explodes.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you're simulating that real-world pressure to just keep talking.
And this stage has the strictest rules.
The most critical rules, yes. Because the goal is survival. It's continuation. For these minutes, there's absolutely no stopping and no restarting. None. If you hit a wall, you talk through it.
Yeah.
Repetition is fine. Filler words are fine. You are protecting the flow above everything else.
I can already hear people pushing back on that. You know, if I'm just rambling and repeating myself for 10 minutes, how is that productive? Am I not just practicing bad habits?
It's a great question, and it goes right back to that difference between training and correction. In this step, you are training endurance and flow, not precision. If you stop to fix a grammar mistake, you're teaching your brain that silence is the reward for facing a challenge. We want to teach it the opposite.
That continuation is the only option.
Continuation is the only acceptable response to difficulty. The goal is simply to survive the 10 minutes.
So what do I do when I hit that inevitable mental block? I forget a word. I freeze. How do I keep that flow going?
You deploy something called a flow keeper.
A flow keeper?
Yeah, think of them like a little tool to buy your brain a millisecond of processing time. You can't stop, but you can create a tiny bit of space.
So what are they?
There's specific phrases you use the second you feel that freeze coming on. Phrases like, what I mean is, or let me explain, or simply basically.
And you say them out loud.
You say them out loud. It buys your brain that crucial second to find a different word or to restructure the sentence, all without breaking the rhythm of your speech. If you use a flow keeper and keep going, you've won.
That's the win condition.
Got it. Okay, final step. Step 4, reflection. This is just 2 to 5 minutes. The speaking is done. And now you have to judge your session.
And if you judge the wrong thing here, you will get demotivated and you will quit. So you have to judge correctly.
Okay, let's get right to the friction point. You said we shouldn't judge grammar, but if I just ignore my mistakes all the time, won't I just be cementing bad habits?
The sources do address this, and it's a really crucial nuance. We are isolating one skill right now, the skill of speaking flow.
Just that one thing.
Just that one thing. Correcting grammar habits happens later. It happens in other types of practice, like dedicated listening or writing. If you try to judge grammar during a flow session, you guarantee you will break the flow, which defeats the entire purpose.
So you're saying it's the wrong tool for the job?
The wrong tool for the job. So what you do not judge is grammar, vocabulary, or your accent. What you do judge is your flow.
You ask yourself, did I keep speaking? Did I use my flow keepers when I got stuck? Did the anxiety I felt in step 1 go down by the time I hit step 3?
That makes perfect sense. You're using the right metrics for the right training. So if your flow improved, even a tiny bit, the session was a success. It's a binary question. Did you keep going? Yes or no.
And that's it.
That's the daily structure. It feels incredibly deliberate. But let's zoom out to the bigger picture. How do you avoid burnout? You can't maintain that intensity every single day for months.
You can't. And consistency always beats intensity.
Yeah.
Every single time. So you need a realistic weekly rhythm that actually builds in recovery.
So you don't feel like you have to match Friday's energy on a Monday morning?
Exactly. The recommended schedule is all about recovery. So 4 days a week, you do the full 4-step system we just went through.
Okay.
2 days are what we call light speaking days, just the warm-up and the free speaking. Step 1 and step 3.
Skipping the structured part.
Yep. And then, crucially, 1 day is complete rest. Or, just dedicated listening, no speak.
A rest day feels counterintuitive, especially for a high achiever. Why is taking a whole day off from speaking so important for fluency?
Because it's how your brain consolidates learning. Fluency isn't just about input. It's about your subconscious being able to access that input quickly.
I see.
Rest is not quitting. It lets those neural pathways you trained settle into your long-term memory. It's giving the system permission to stop being effortful and start becoming automatic.
That sounds really sustainable. But even with a great system, there have to be common mistakes, right? These little things that act like fluency killers.
Oh, absolutely. And they pull people right back into that random, ineffective practice.
So let's name them. What should you look out for?
The biggest killer is practicing only in your head. Thinking in English is great, but speaking requires you to actually vocalize.
Even quietly.
Even quietly.
Right.
It trains the physical coordination of your mouth, and it engages your auditory feedback loop, which is essential for self-correction later on.
And what about the shame cycle? You miss one day and then you just spiral and skip the whole week.
That is a classic system killer. If you miss Monday, you just start fresh on Tuesday. End of story. You also have to avoid the thing we already talked about, correcting yourself mid-sentence.
Destroys the flow.
Instantly. And finally, don't aim for advanced English too early. Simple concepts perfectly linked together, that's the real priority.
So the main principle just stays the same. Fluency grows through continuation, not correction.
Yes. When you stop to fix a grammar point, you teach your brain that speaking is dangerous and that you should stop when things get hard. And that is the exact opposite of what we want.
Right, absolutely.
When you zoom all the way out, the one mental rule that makes this entire system work is it's deceptively simple.
What is it?
Your only goal during practice is to keep speaking.
Yeah.
That's it. Not to impress, not to perform, not to be perfect. Just continue.
Just keep the output going.
If you meet that single goal, no matter how messy it sounded, you are training fluency correctly. The system guarantees that every minute you spend is productive.
And what I find fascinating is how you actually progress. Because you're so focused on the flow and just not stopping, you probably won't notice the change day to day.
You won't. You're too in the weeds of the exercise. But week by week, the system is subtly rewiring your brain.
And what do those changes look like?
You start to notice these subtle shifts, like the pauses are still there, but they become calm pauses, not these panicked freezes.
Okay.
Your sentences start to get longer naturally because you've practiced that linking function so many times in step 2. Your thinking speed picks up, and that feeling of fear it starts to reduce.
Because you've proven to yourself over and over that the training space is safe.
Exactly.
And the sources mention that these small daily improvements often go totally unnoticed until one day the change is just undeniable.
That's the aha moment. One day you'll be speaking in a real situation and it'll just hit you. Wait a second, that was easy. The effort is gone and is replaced by spontaneous expression.
When speaking stops feeling like practice and just becomes a way to express yourself, that's when fluency becomes natural.
That is the moment. And the structure we just built is what gets you to that freedom.
This has been an incredibly deep dive. It really shows that the path to fluency isn't built on just sheer will, but on structure, those 4 daily steps, and on that really powerful mindset shift.
Training over performance.
Training over performance.
That's right. The system guarantees your practice is always productive because your only metric is continuation. If you are continuing, you are winning.
A great way to put it.
So here's the provocative thought for you to consider today. The keep speaking rule prioritizes continuation over perfection. So how does applying that same mindset change how you approach challenging conversations outside of your dedicated practice time?
Think about that. Try applying that mindset immediately, starting with your very next difficult conversation. Our deep dive into the systems of fluency mastery is complete. We'll catch you next time.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to take that stack of sources you send over, the research, the articles, all of it, and really boil it down to what you can use right now. Today, we're tackling a challenge that, it's at the heart of pretty much every language journey.
It really is.
How do you take your English fluency from the the quiet safety of your practice room, and actually use it in the real world, in the office, in an interview.
The messy, high-pressure chaos of real life.
Exactly. And if you're listening, you probably know this feeling. You're alone, you're reviewing your notes, and you feel fluent. You feel competent.
Right.
But the second you walk into a meeting or sit down for that interview, it just collapses.
It vanishes.
All that pressure, the expectations, the time limits, it just changes everything.
And it's so important to understand why that happens. It's not like the grammar rules suddenly change when your boss is looking at you.
Right.
What changes is your internal system. The sources make this really key distinction. There's a gap between your linguistic competence. So the grammar and vocabulary, what's in your head?
What's in your head? And your communicative performance. That's your ability to actually use that knowledge in real time under all that emotional stress.
So your brain feels like it's being watched, being judged.
Exactly. That self-monitoring, that internal noise just spikes. And when the noise goes up, your access to your own vocabulary just slows right down.
So our mission for you today is pretty simple. We're going to give you the mental structures, the strategies to bridge that gap. We're going to hand you the blueprint for sounding calm and in control, even in those high-stakes moments.
And we have to start with the number one thing that sabotages people. If we can just neutralize this one thing, we've solved half the problem right there.
Okay, lay it out for us. What is the single biggest mistake people make?
It's trying to sound impressive instead of just trying to be clear.
That feels so powerful, but also counterintuitive. I think a lot of learners believe they have to sound impressive to be taken seriously.
Of course.
They walk into a client presentation and think, okay, time for my best vocabulary, my most complex sentences. Right. And that self-imposed pressure just derails the entire process. It creates this massive cognitive load. Your working memory just overloads.
You're decorating the message before you've even built it.
That's a perfect way to put it. You stall trying to find that perfect word. And that little stall, that break in rhythm, is what people perceive as a lack of fluency. It doesn't matter how good the word is when you finally find it.
So what do fluent professionals actually sound like?
They don't sound impressive. They sound clear and calm. You have to remember, clarity is what builds trust. Being concise, that's what builds authority.
Nobody is thinking, wow, great vocabulary. They're thinking, I have no idea what this person is trying to tell me.
Exactly. They're just struggling to communicate.
Okay, so that reframing is key. The goal is transmitting the message, not showing off your grammar. So let's take that straight into the workplace, the office.
Right.
Office fluency is fascinating because it's really predictable, isn't it? It's not some big philosophical debate.
Not at all. It's a limited set of actions you do over and over.
Giving updates, asking questions, explaining a problem, giving feedback. Most office English is actually pretty simple.
Which is exactly why preparation is so powerful in an office setting. You know you're going to be asked for an update on Project X. You know you might have to explain a delay.
So you can prepare patterns for those moments.
Yes. And that automates the sentence structure. It means you're not wasting brain power in the meeting trying to build a sentence from scratch. You can just focus on the actual information.
So let's make this really tangible. What are some of those powerful, structured patterns people should be practicing?
Think about the cadence of a meeting. You need openers, status reports, a way to talk about challenges, and a way to define next steps.
So instead of just stumbling into your update, you start with something clean, like, I'd like to give a quick update on a campaign.
Perfect. Then for the status. From my side, things are on track. Or we're about 80% complete. Simple, direct.
And if there's a problem?
You use a fixed pattern. One challenge we're facing is, and then you name it. And then you close with clear ownership. I'll follow up on this by end of day.
When you break them down like that, those sentences are incredibly simple.
They're grammatically straightforward. But they work because they sound confident and controlled. The person listening gets the information instantly. There's no decoding necessary.
Okay, but what about when the unexpected happens? Your boss's boss asks you a sharp question you didn't prepare for. What's the tip for managing that sudden nervousness?
You have to control the things you can control. The first thing people do when pressure hits is they speed up. They talk faster.
Trying to get through the uncomfortable moment.
Right, and it just accelerates the collapse. The real advice is the opposite. Speak slower.
Intentionally.
Intentionally. Use shorter sentences. And give yourself permission to pause. A calm pause makes you sound thoughtful and measured, even if inside you're scrambling for the right word.
Speed isn't fluency. Control is fluency.
That's the mantra. Control is fluency.
Okay, let's take that idea of control and move to the ultimate high-stakes environment, the job interview.
The proving ground.
It's just uniquely stressful. That feeling of being judged is so intense, and there's this belief that silence is dangerous.
Yes, that's a huge one. That internal voice is just screaming, fill the gap, say something, anything.
Which leads to panic.
It does. But the sources are so clear on this. Interview success is all about structure. An organized answer, even if it's a little imperfect, is so much better than a perfect-sounding answer that just wanders all over the place.
Because the structure is like a safety net for your brain.
Exactly. It frees up your mental energy to just focus on finding the right words, not inventing the architecture of the answer on the spot.
So what is that practical structure? What's the approach that works every single time?
We recommend a really simple, crucial 3-part interview answer structure.
Right.
Part 1, give the direct answer immediately. Don't build up to it.
Straight to the point.
Right. Part 2, offer a short explanation, give it some context. Part 3, give a small, concrete example.
Okay, let's run through a quick example. Let's say they ask, do you have experience with this?
Okay, so direct answer first. Yes, I have experience in this role.
Short explanation. I've been working in this area for about 3 years.
And then the example. For example, in my last project, I handled. And you give the specific detail.
Direct, explain, example. But what if someone pushes back and says, won't I sound like a robot if I use that for every question?
That's a great question, and it comes from that fear of losing your personality. But the truth is the structure disappears once you fill it with your own content.
It's like a scaffold for a building.
Exactly. You need it to build. But once the building is finished, you don't even see the scaffold. It's just there to manage your anxiety and make sure you're clear under pressure.
And what if you don't even understand the question to begin with?
This ties right into the interview confidence rule. Never, ever guess. So many people just nod and start talking, hoping they'll figure it out.
Which is a disaster.
It's a guaranteed weak answer. True fluency means being assertive enough to ask for clarity. Use a professional phrase like, could you please repeat that? Or even, can you clarify what you mean by that?
It buys you time and makes you look more engaged.
It positions you as a critical thinker, not just a passive respondent.
Okay, so we've covered the big high-stakes situations. But what about daily life? Ordering coffee, talking to a neighbor. We often overlook how important those small moments are.
We do, and they are the absolute best training ground. There's low risk, low consequence, and they build massive confidence. They attack the root of the anxiety.
And the requirements are just different. You don't need formal grammar.
No, you just need to be friendly, open. The goal is just to keep the conversation going. It's about conversational maintenance, not perfection.
So keeping the ball in the air. What are some of those simple phrases, those conversational connectors that help you do that?
Well, beyond the basics, it's about showing you're listening. Someone tells you about their day, you say, that sounds intense, or that's interesting.
Reflecting back what you hear.
Right, or if you need a second to think, you can use a filler, like, I hadn't thought about it that way. It keeps the dialogue moving and shows you're present.
The goal here is just participation, right? Not domination.
Exactly. And every single one of those small, successful chats in a cafe weakens that psychological barrier that causes the panic in the interview room. You're building muscle memory.
Okay, but we have to talk about mistakes because they are going to happen. It's guaranteed.
For every speaker, native or not.
And the real test isn't whether you make a mistake, it's how you react to it.
100%. If you panic and get flustered, everyone focuses on the error. But if you stay calm and just correct yourself, people forget it instantly. The conversation just moves on.
Do you need some calm recovery phrases in your back pocket?
Essential tools. Instead of freezing or saying, oh, sorry, my English, you just use a professional pivot.
Like what?
Something simple like, sorry, let me rephrase that, or what I mean is, or even, let me say that a different way.
You're signaling to your own brain and to the listener that you're still in charge of the message.
The mistake doesn't own the conversation. You do.
And this all leads to what might be the most powerful rule here. You can't wait until you feel ready. You just can't.
Action has to come before confidence. Confidence is a result of action, not the other way around.
That idea of, I'll speak when my English is perfect, is just a trap.
It's a complete trap. You have to start speaking while you still feel nervous. That's the only way to build the pathways for fluency.
And on the flip side of that, what are the things you should absolutely not do in a real situation? The habits that just kill your fluency on the spot.
Okay, number 1, don't apologize for your English. ever. Don't explain that you're nervous.
Don't stop mid-sentence and just freeze.
Keep going. Even if you stumble, don't immediately switch to your native language. And the biggest one, do not judge yourself while you are speaking.
Because that inner critic just eats up all your mental energy.
All of it.
So the formula is speak, continue, stay calm.
Speak, continue, stay calm. That's the behavior. And it requires a shift in mindset. The real-life fluency mindset isn't about language, it's about communication.
You stop asking yourself, did I speak perfectly?
Right. That's a wrong question. The only question a fluent speaker asks is, did the message get through? Did the communication succeed?
That's the whole deep dive right there. Communication first, language second. When the message becomes the priority, the pressure for perfection fades, and fluency just best, it follows.
It does. And that brings us to a final thought for you to take with you this week. Stop waiting for some big, perfect conversation to feel like you're making progress.
Focus on the small wins.
Focus on the small wins. Every single real conversation, no matter how small, ordering food, asking a question, it has a measurable positive effect. It weakens the fear response in your brain. It strengthens your fluency. It builds self-trust.
So the goal isn't to eliminate mistakes.
No. The goal this week is to collect those small acts of bravery, because that is the only true measure of progress.
Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, if you're listening to this, I think you've probably felt that moment of panic. A conversation starts and suddenly you're just grasping for words. You feel stuck.
Right. You know all the rules, but using them is a totally different game.
Exactly. So today we're grabbing a stack of source material that, well, it promises a way out of that loop.
A pretty structured way out.
We're doing a deep dive into the system laid out in the 90-day Speaking Fluency Transformation Plan. For you listening, this is all about a clear step-by-step system for going from hesitant to confident.
In 3 months.
In just 3 months. Okay, let's unpack this and see how it really works, maybe on a more psychological level.
I think what's so critical right from the start is the core idea of this plan.
Which is?
That so many learners fail, not because they lack ability. They have the vocabulary, they have the grammar, but because they don't have a clear system.
They have all the pieces, but no instructions.
Precisely. They try a bit of this, a bit of that, they get completely overwhelmed, and then they just stop. This whole plan is really engineered to remove that confusion.
So the argument is that fluency isn't some kind of, I don't know, mystical talent.
Not at all.
It's just the result of following a process.
Yeah.
A reliable one.
Exactly. The material is very clear that things like talent or perfect grammar or even feeling confident on day one, they're irrelevant.
Those are false hurdles.
And they're false hurdles that hold people back. The only thing you actually need is to follow the daily system, because that system is what changes how your brain processes the language.
From thinking and translating to just speaking.
To automatic production, yes.
So that's our mission then. We're going to distill these three distinct 30-day phases. We'll look at the daily routines and try to identify that one big internal shift that's required.
And it all starts with the biggest barrier.
Fear.
That's where the whole structure begins, in phase one.
So phase one, the first 30 days, this is purely foundational. The goal here, and this is explicit, is comfort. It's not fluency.
Which is a critical psychological distinction.
How so?
Well, for a lot of learners, the second they start to speak, their brain just flips into this self-correction mode.
Listening for every little mistake.
Judging their own pronunciation, pre-translating everything, it's exhausting. And that's the silent stress that just stops a conversation cold.
And the planned solution for that stress is to build an utterly safe container for those first 30 days.
The environment is the mechanism. That's the key. For these 30 days, you speak every day, but only in safe environments.
What does safe mean here?
It means, crucially, no correction pressure and absolutely no performance expectations.
They're retraining your brain.
You're retraining the physical parts, your mouth, your tongue, to associate English with familiarity, not with judgment.
Okay, but a question that immediately comes to mind.
Yeah.
If the focus is all on continuation over correctness, aren't you just embedding bad habits?
It's a fair question, and the plan deals with it head on.
And the answer is?
The sources basically argue that correcting grammar is pointless if the learner is too scared to even open their mouth. Grammar work is for phase 2 and 3. The first 30 days have to be about volume and momentum, just getting the engine running.
So to do that, the daily commitment starts really small. like 15 to 20 minutes a day.
Very manageable. And during that time, the focus is all about really radical self-acceptance.
Simple sentences, slow pace.
And you drill this one phrase into your head, continuation over correctness, every time you feel a mistake coming and want to stop.
You just push through.
You keep moving forward. That momentum is the only victory that matters in phase 1.
So let's break down that 15 or 20 minutes. How is it structured?
It's 3 simple focus parts. First is 5 minutes of warm-up speaking.
A motor drill, basically.
That's all it is. You just describe what you are doing right now. I am sitting down. I am looking at my desk.
Very simple. Present tense. No deep thoughts.
None. Then you move into 5 or 10 minutes of guided speaking. This is with training wheels.
What kind of training wheels?
Simple patterns like I think, or I like, or today I. These little frames give your brain enough structure that it doesn't have to stress about creating a whole new sentence from nothing.
Okay, and the last part is 5 minutes of free speaking.
Right. And the only rule here is continuity. You pick a topic, any topic, and you just talk for 5 minutes. Don't stop.
So you're internalizing that silence is the enemy, not the mistake.
Exactly. And by day 30, the results are pretty powerful because that daily exposure was so consistent and non-threatening.
Which leads to what the material calls the massive shift. What does that look like?
People report that the fear is just weaker. Silence isn't scary anymore, and the words feel more familiar. You're not wrestling with the language.
And that comfort, that familiarity.
Yeah.
That's the passport into phase 2.
That's the key that unlocks the door.
Okay, so we've dealt with the fear.
Yeah.
The engine is warm. And now, I think, here's where it gets really interesting. Because phase 2, which is days 31 to 60, is all about shifting from just comfort into sustained flow.
And what's fascinating here is that the goal still isn't pure speed. Speed is a byproduct.
Not the target.
Right. The real goal is continuation. This phase is about building the connective tissue between simple ideas to create more complex thoughts.
The daily time goes up a little to 20, 25 minutes.
It does because we're asking the brain to do more. The focus shifts a lot here.
Elliot.
Connecting ideas, sentence expansion, and really thinking ahead, building the next sentence while you're still speaking the current one.
On no restarting. If you stumble, you just keep going.
You push through. It's a strict rule in this phase.
And this is where structure really starts to matter. I see here in the routine a 10-minute drill practicing a very specific framework. Opinion, then reason, then example.
That ORE framework, that is the neurolinguistic key to this whole phase.
Explain that.
It's designed to stop you from translating word for word in your head. It gives your brain a ready-made structure to organize thoughts in English.
So your brain doesn't have to panic about how to say something mid-sentence.
Exactly. It's like a mini argument template. It moves you past just giving one-word answers. It forces you to expand.
Right. You can't just say, I liked the movie.
No. The structure forces you to say, I thought the movie was fantastic opinion because the characters were so well developed. Reason, for instance, the main character's journey felt really authentic example.
It builds in depth and sophistication.
It's the scaffolding you need to go from basic communication to something more articulate.
And all that structured practice then feeds into the final 5 or 10 minutes of free speaking.
It does. And the rule is stricter now. You stick to one topic and you cannot stop. The goal is to apply that ORE thinking to a natural stream of thought.
So by the end of day 60, what's the result? What do people see?
You see genuine flow. People can give much longer answers. Their transitions are smoother. When they pause, the pauses are calmer. They're not desperately searching for a word.
They're organizing the next thought.
Yes. Their thinking speed in English actually picks up. This is where the sources say English really begins to flow.
Okay, so we have comfort, we have flow. Now phase 3, days 61 to 90. This is the application phase. This is where you take that fluency you've built in a safe space and make it usable in the real world. Under pressure.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the transfer. You're moving out of the training room and into an actual conversation.
Practicing things like office English, job interviews.
Exactly. Meetings, difficult daily conversations. And the goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to be confident when the pressure is on.
The time commitment goes up one last time to about 25, maybe 30 minutes a day.
Right, because the cognitive demand is higher. And the focus points shift again to practical execution.
The main principle here seems to be clarity over complexity.
A vital principle. Fluent speech is clear speech, not academic speech. You also focus on calm delivery, on keeping your composure.
Let's look at the routine. The first 10 minutes is situation practice, a simulation.
It's critical rehearsal. You have to prepare your brain for these high-stakes scenarios, so you role play.
Like practicing an update for your boss.
Or answering a really tricky interview question. You simulate reality so it's less of a shock when it actually happens.
Then there's 10 minutes of free speaking, but with a new twist. The instruction is to explain your ideas as if someone is listening.
That's a huge shift. It forces you to think about your audience, to be clear, not just to talk at a wall. It creates accountability.
And the final 5 minutes is reflection.
Yes. Self-assessment. You ask yourself, did I keep going? Did my fear go down when I made a mistake? Was I clear?
So you're constantly monitoring your internal response, not just your words.
Exactly. And by day 90, the results are, well, transformative. People report they can respond more naturally, more quickly. They can recover from mistakes without getting flustered.
And English, as the plan puts it, no longer feels heavy.
That's the perfect way to describe it. The weight is gone.
So what does this all mean? When we boil down these 90 days, safety, then flow, then application. What's the single biggest change a person walks away with?
You know, the most important change is not something you can measure on a grammar test. It's an internal shift.
A shift in focus.
Completely. The learner stops asking that paralyzing question, can I speak English well enough?
And they start asking.
They start asking, what do I want to say?
Moving from self-doubt to the actual message. It seems so simple, but that's an incredibly powerful change.
It leads to fundamental changes in behavior. You stop trying to prepare and translate every sentence in your head.
Which is so slow.
It's slow and clunky. Instead, you just start reacting naturally. You stop fearing every mistake because you realize the message is what matters. That mental shift is fluency.
And that leads us to what the plan calls the final fluency truth. It's not a destination you arrive at.
Not at all. It's not a mountain you climb and then you're done. Fluency is a habit, a living habit.
So the system gets you there.
The system builds the muscle, but the daily habit is what provides the sustained exercise. If you keep speaking a little every day, even after day 90, your fluency just keeps growing.
We've covered a full 90-day plan to rewire your brain's response to speaking. But there's one last really provocative thought here for you to consider. A thought that completely flips the common belief about confidence and language on its head.
Most people assume confidence has to come first. They wait.
They say, when I know enough, then I'll be confident enough to speak.
But the truth, according to this entire system, is the complete inverse.
You don't become fluent because you are confident.
You become confident because you speak.
Speak first. Confidence follows.
If today's episode resonated with you, don't let it end here. Fluency doesn't grow from listening once. It grows from daily action. Choose one small speaking habit from today's episode and start it today. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready.
Speak for 5 minutes. Alone. Without fear. Without correction. That one decision is where confidence begins.
Subscribe to English Speak Pulse so you don't miss the next episode, where we continue breaking English fear and building real-world communication power.
And if this episode helped you, share it with someone who says, I know English, but I can't speak.
Because fluency isn't about knowing more. It's about using what you already know.